Okay, you've decided to renovate your kitchen. You know you're going to be spending thousands and thousands of dollars on beautiful cabinets and countertops. It's one of the most expensive things you'll probably really spend money on in your home, and it's an incredibly stressful experience and you don't want to screw it up. And one of the big questions everybody has, or at least I had, was quartz versus granite. We're going to break it down so that we understand the differences between both of them, the advantages of each, and which one is going to be right for you. So let's get into it. So first of all, let's talk granite, what it is and what are the advantages and disadvantages of granite. Okay, so granite is a natural stone, so it comes from the earth. Basically, there are granite quarries around the world, and they take these big giant blocks out of the earth and then slice them up basically like a banana loaf, and then polish them, and then they make it into your kitchen. The biggest advantages of granite, really there are kind of two main ones. First of all, it's very heat resistant. So you can put a hot pan on there and not really have to worry, and that's because of course it is solid rock. So one of the second advantages to granite is that it resists chips. So it's very hard because it's a rock, and it's very difficult to chip granite. If you put a cast iron pot, maybe a hot cast iron pot, it's probably gonna be fine. Now, I still probably wouldn't leave that pot there forever, not saying it's never gonna chip, but basically it resists chips very well because it's very hard. But let's talk about one of the disadvantages of granite, which it's really not that big of a deal, but it is definitely worth knowing, is that granite requires to be sealed probably at least about once a year. I'd recommend that if you're spending this much money to get a professional to come in and seal your granite, they do sell household sealers that you can just spray on. I use them for the marble that I have around the house. Now the reason you're gonna wanna seal it is because granite, being a natural stone, is very porous. So what that means is that if you spill something like red wine or tomato sauce or something like that, it's gonna actually seep into the rock and it's gonna permanently stain it. You don't want that. You've just spent all this money, gone through all the headaches of going through a renovation. You don't want to be one glass of red wine away from ruining your perfectly good granite. Now you can repair granite, but it's best to just avoid that completely by having it sealed, so that way it resists staining that way. Okay, so now let's talk about granite's biggest competitor, which is quartz. So quartz, unlike granite, is a manufactured product, so it's man-made. It does not come from the earth. Now there is basically about 93% stone in quartz, so it's basically stone that's kind of ground up. The other 7% is going to be a resin, as well as some pigment to be able to kind of create the color and the designs of whatever quartz product you're using. So one of the disadvantages with quartz is that because it's 7% resin, around 7 to 10% resin, that will melt if you put something very hot. So if you take a cast iron right out of the oven, you literally probably have seconds in order to be able to make sure that it doesn't melt your quartz. Now you can easily solve this by just putting down a heat pad, but it's just something to note that if someone maybe comes to your house and doesn't know that you're using quartz, maybe they're not used to it, they might put it on your beautiful quartz and they might scorch it. I do think that they're getting better over time to be able to be more heat resistant, but that is just something to consider when you're looking at quartz, is that it's not going to be as heat resistant as a natural stone like granite. So one of the biggest advantages to quartz, and why a lot of people choose it, is that it's non-porous. So what that means is that it's going to resist the stains that we talked about with granite and does not require any maintenance of a sealer. So that's great, because that means that if you spill that glass of red wine, or if you get some tomato sauce on the quartz, that means that it's not going to seep in and leave those kind of ugly shadowy marks. Now I will say that I have had quartz for a while and there are little tiny stains. So it's really important to remember that it's not perfect. It's not always going to be perfect. It's a manufactured product. Everything kind of sort of wears out in time, but it's going to wear really well. It does resist stains a lot better than a natural stone would. So I'm exceptionally lazy in the kitchen, so I'm not going to lie. If I have people that come over and they're here late at night, we're drinking wine and yada yada, we're cooking, I'm not the type to necessarily diligently scrub down my kitchen at midnight or 1 in the morning before going to bed. I might just leave that till the morning. So if you're like me and you do that, then quartz is a really great product for you, because the resistance of staining, basically, if you're leaving it on there for several hours, I've never had a problem. I go in, clean out my kitchen in the morning, and I notice that there's no problems. So I think if I had granite, I would probably be a lot more concerned, especially if I wasn't diligently sealing it. Okay, so that's kind of the features of both, just so you have a good rundown. Honestly, none of these things that I've talked about for me are really disqualifying. I think both are actually really amazing products, and you would be really happy to put both in your home. So if you're like me and you're like exceptionally stressed about making this decision and you're like, oh my God, I don't want to make the wrong decision because you're spending so much money and so much time. I mean, renovations are so stressful. You don't want to screw it up. So I'm here to tell you, I think you're going to be happy with either product. Yes, you have to seal granite, but it's not that big of a deal. Yes, technically, if you put a really hot pan on quartz, it might scorch the quartz, but you just have to use heat pads and be careful. Neither one to me are incredibly disqualifying, but that arrives at what I think is probably the most important factor of which one to choose, which is which one do you like? Which one's beautiful to you, right? Personally, I think for me, I will say there's always beauty in a natural stone. I think there's always something really amazing about something that's come from the earth, that is not just manufactured in a facility, that it is something like there's just beauty in that, right? Like I think there's some beautiful granites out there. I will say I do think that granite suits more of a traditional style. So if you like more of a traditional looking kitchen, if that's more your design style, I think you're probably going to be a lot better off with granite. With granite, the look of it, there's a lot more movement, there's a lot more color, there's oftentimes little speckly pieces in there that you're just probably less likely to see in a quartz. So if you really like that look, you really can't go wrong with granite. So quartz. I think is really great for people that like more of a modern design style, people that like kind of that clean, fresh, contemporary look. You can have kind of a marble effect throughout. You can have quartz that has a lot of veining. You can have quartz that's very simple. You can have quartz that also has little kind of speckly pieces inside of it. There's a lot of different options that you can do with quartz because as a manufactured product, it's really kind of a huge range of options that you have available to you. There's lots of different manufacturers that come up with tons of different finishes, but I do think it favors people that prefer that sort of modern design style. I'll also just touch on price. I think in the end, let's be real, like they're both pretty expensive options. There are cheaper options out there like butcher block or laminate that are not maybe going to be as durable. They're not going to last you as long, but they are cheaper options. Both of them, both granite and quartz, are quite expensive. The difference, which I think is quite interesting, is that granite is priced based more on rarity. So it's not really quality based, right? It's going to be, some granites in the world are exceptionally rare and thus going to be a lot more expensive. Some granites are more common and going to be cheaper. I think the cheapest granite is going to come in a little bit cheaper than the cheapest quartz from what I've seen. But there are really pricey granites from really rare mines where it's just really difficult to source. I think quartz, being a manufactured product, they can always make more, right? So the prices are generally going to be quite set. That's going to be more based on quality. So more established manufacturers are going to charge more money for higher end quartz. So I want to say, because y'all know I always have an opinion, I'm going to say that I personally prefer quartz to granite, and that's mostly just because I like that modern design style. I will say there is always something beautiful coming from a natural stone that you can't replicate in a man-made product, but I will say that granite typically suits a more traditional kitchen, and that's just not my style. But that's my style, that's not your style. One of the best things about design to me is that everybody has their own style, and you can learn to appreciate everybody's style individually. One last thing I'm going to touch on that I don't know, I just feel like there's someone out there that maybe needs to hear this because I needed to hear this. I don't recommend putting marble in a kitchen. So this pains me to say it because I love marble. Just this last weekend on Saturday, some friends are doing their kitchen and we were looking at slabs on the weekend. And I don't know about you, but like I like going to check out tiles and slabs of marble on the weekend because I'm a design nerd. That's just what I love to do. So I love marble as much as the next person. Truly, I do. I just don't think kitchen countertops are the best place to put marble. Marble is generally, although different marbles have different levels of hardness and durability, I will say that generally marble is a very porous stone and thus is not, definitely you have to seal marble, but it's generally so porous that I wouldn't recommend it on such a high traffic area like kitchen countertops. There are beautiful, wonderful marbles out there that you can put in fireplaces, maybe in end tables and side tables. There's lots of places you can put marble. I just personally wouldn't recommend it in a kitchen. So I just feel like there's someone out there on the internet that needs to hear that because I looked for 1,000 different ways for me to justify how maybe I could make marble work, and I'm here to tell you I wouldn't recommend it. Now, if you don't really cook in your kitchen and you're just there for show, then great, then maybe marble will work for you. But I like to cook. I'm a messy cook, as I mentioned earlier, so to me, marble would never work. So maybe you're like me, and if you are and you love marble and you're looking to justify it, I'm here to tell you, go with something like quartz. My kitchen, there's a lot of veining in the quartz that I have, which to me replicates a lot of what I love about marble. And this to me is kind of a beautiful way of having the benefits of quartz while still having a little bit of a marble effect. So maybe that might work for you. Anyways, I hope you got some value out of that. If you're doing a kitchen renovation, let me know. I'd love to hear from you down below in the comments. If you're interested in design content, feel free to subscribe and we can chat here every week. And don't forget to like this video so other people can find it. And that's it. See you all next time. Thanks. Bye.